They say the loudest voice wins the argument. But what if I told you the real power lies in saying nothing at all? Emotional reactions are like flashing neon signs pointing exactly where the attacker should strike. Psychologists like Paul Ekman, who studied micro-expressions and emotional leakage, have shown that involuntary reactions betray our deepest vulnerabilities, the cracks in our armor. Silence, then, becomes a weapon against those who rely on those cracks. Manipulators thrive on provoking emotional responses because those reactions give them control. When you refuse to react, you break their cycle, and that makes them panic. They depend on your response to validate their position. Without it, they unravel. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But here, silence makes the manipulator confront their own insecurities because their masks start slipping." But silence cuts even deeper. It awakens hidden wounds, rejection, humiliation, abandonment. These are the silent screams trapped inside every narcissistic ego. Psychologist Dr. Wendy B. Harry notes that narcissists have fragile self-esteem beneath their grandiosity, and silence shatters the illusion of control they desperately maintain. When you stay silent, you aren't just protecting yourself, you're striking at the heart of their illusion. That's why silence demands strength. It goes against our instinct to defend, explain, or justify. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche taught that true power is mastery over oneself and one's impulses. The silence you practice is mastery in motion. Once you understand how silence unsettles others, how it breaks down their defenses and reveals hidden fears, you can transform it into a weapon, not just a shield. In the next sections, you'll discover how to wield silence intentionally, how to win arguments without uttering a word, and why that power makes you untouchable. Because knowledge without action is useless. Your first step? Be silent when your instincts scream to react. This is brutal. Your mind will scream for explanation, to prove yourself right, to defend your honor. But surrendering to this urge means giving others control, admitting you still play by their rules. Psychologists emphasize that self-control is one of the strongest predictors of success in life and relationships. Walter Mischel's famous marshmallow test showed that delaying immediate reaction leads to far greater rewards. True silence is born when you kill the need to respond. When you realize you owe no one explanations, that truth exists whether spoken or not. The second weapon in your silence arsenal is observation. While others fill the air with noise, you listen, but not like a bored bystander waiting to talk. Like a predator listening for the slightest footstep, you notice the tiny cracks in their words, contradictions, hidden fears, false confidence. You collect this intel silently. Renowned psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi identified this kind of focused awareness as a key element of flow, the state of total mastery. When you speak, it will be surgical and precise, guided by deep knowledge of the other's emotional landscape. Third, time. Let silence linger. The pause is tension, and tension is power. When someone speaks expecting a reaction, and it never comes, their mind spins. Studies in social psychology show that uncomfortable silences trigger anxiety and self-doubt, leading people to overthink and self-sabotage. Just a single glance paired with silence can undo more damage than any barrage of words. Fourth, unpredictability. Silence is a wild card, and humans fear the unknown. When you break the pattern of reaction, you seize control. Your unpredictability forces others to walk on eggshells, second-guess their every word, and lose confidence. Philosopher Michel Foucault described power as something that comes from everywhere, and unpredictability is one of its most potent sources. But here's the catch. Silence is not passivity. It is active, tense, charged with intention. It is the calm before the storm, the poised archer waiting for the perfect moment. When that moment arrives, your words hit like lightning, not because they are loud, but because they are true and undeniable. Yet, silence is not always a weapon for winning arguments. Sometimes, it's a trap, a prison. There are moments when silence becomes submission. When you swallow your anger, avoid conflict, and convince yourself that peace means silence, you are paying a heavy price. Nietzsche warned against the morality of slaves, where the weak accept suffering and silence as virtue, a code of resignation disguised as balance. Have you ever noticed how some people exploit your calmness? They push boundaries, dominate conversations, and take what you silently allow them. Social psychologists call this boundary erosion. And the worst part? You may not even realize it's happening. When you accept silence as surrender, you lose yourself. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, "Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you." But silence used as submission is freedom denied. It shapes you into what others want, not who you truly are. So, how do you avoid this silent trap? First, understand your silence. Is it strategic, a tool for control, or is it fear disguised as calm? Reflection is key. Psychologists recommend mindfulness to increase awareness of your emotional patterns. Second, set boundaries. Silence doesn't mean giving up your voice or your power. It means choosing when and how to speak. Third, use silence deliberately, as a sword, not a shield. When you master these lessons, you transform silence from a passive state into a force of nature. You stop being a player in others' games. Instead, you become the one who controls the board. The power of silence is subtle but deadly. It disarms, destabilizes, and dominates. It reveals truth without a single word. And in a world addicted to noise and reaction, it is the rarest form of strength. Remember the words of Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond. Silence is your choice, your weapon, your freedom. Now, go practice this power. Stop arguing. Start winning. If you want to dive deeper into the psychology of power and control, the next video waiting for you will blow your mind.